Hello lovely people, how are you all today? I hope you're well. Welcome to another Sunday on the sofa. Now I don't know about you guys, but this is how I feel at the moment. Honestly, I could go to sleep. My goodness, isn't Christmas a hullabaloo? I mean, it's a lovely hullabaloo. It's a wonderful hullabaloo, but it's a lot of whizzing around, catching up with folk, spending time with family. It's all wonderful, but I'm really enjoying the lovely peace and quiet of my own space again. I love being with people, absolutely love being with people. I love being noisy, but I also really crave my solitude, my alone time. And, sorry, all fidgety. Yeah, so I thought, we're in this week between Christmas and New Year. Actually, I really like this week each year because it does tend to be really quiet. I think folk have sort of been frantic, busy up until Christmas and including Christmas, and probably we've all done our visiting by now and we're home again. Excuse me a sec. It's water on the sofa today, not wine. Enough wine over Christmas. Yeah, I think there's all that, the madness of Christmas, and then of course there'll be the madness of New Year's Eve for some folk. I don't bother with it anymore. I mean, I'll stay up, I'll sit in my little window seat because I get a great view of the fireworks, the big displays. But yeah, this kind of week in between, there just feels to be this real lull, and personally I love it. Of course, when I was nursing I didn't get it because I'd be working, and the way it used to work is you'd either work Christmas or New Year. You can't get both off. I didn't mind working, but in the last couple of years, of course, I haven't had that, so I've been able to really appreciate this time again, this sort of quiet time. There is traffic about. There are a few folk, you know, on, what day was it, a Friday? I think some people went back to work. Yeah, Christmas Day was Wednesday, Boxing Day Thursday, Friday some people have gone back to work, Saturday. Of course, there have been a lot of people who've worked through the whole period, but it is quieter, and obviously it's Sunday today, so it's a bit quieter anyway. But I was just remembering back to when I was a kid, and literally everything would close on the afternoon, early evening of the 23rd of December. So Christmas Eve, there'd be nothing open, and everything would stay shut right through until the 2nd of January. It's bonkers, isn't it? We used to, as kids for Christmas, we always used to go and stay with my aunt and uncle. So that's my mum's sister and my brother-in-law. Now, my uncle is a Methodist minister, so of course he works every Christmas, which is why we would go to them, because they couldn't get away for Christmas because of my uncle working. But I always remember we used to travel to them on sort of the 20th, 21st or so, pretty much as soon as school was out, and go and stay for a week or so. But there'd always be that day around the 22nd, 23rd, when all of us, Mum and my aunt and all the kids, would be dragged into town to do a big shop. And it wasn't just sort of the big shop for Christmas dinner. You know, in my family we've never gone mad with food. We've always been, you know, all of us are pretty frugal. But you had to do a big shop, you know, of buying 27 loaves of bread, 40 pints of milk, whatever it was, and it would lug all this stuff back because there would be nothing open. It's funny, I think as a kid I probably found that a bit boring, wanting something to be open, something to do. But now as an adult I think, you know what, wouldn't it be great if we could just have 1 week a year when everything shuts. I don't mean that You know, I don't want businesses to lose their livelihood, especially small local businesses. But really, is it too much to ask to just have 1 week where, as human beings, we can be human beings instead of human doings again? Oh, it'd be lovely. Anyway, things are open, and within the next couple of days, it will be like Christmas didn't even happen. Everyone will be back to their normal grumpy, grouchy selves as they hustle and bustle down the high street. So, I'm making the most of this bit of quiet time and making the most of trying to establish this slightly new habit of mine where on Sundays I do my work, I do some work, but I try to make it quiet, slow work, just have that 1 day a week of bringing it all down. Now, before I start, so today's task on the sofa, by the way, have you all got some knitting on the go or some, oh, I'm so excited about this. Before I show you this, let me show you something else. I don't know if it's possible, but I'm going to have to take my glasses off so I can see what I'm showing you, but that means I can't see you anymore. Hang on, here goes. Where to put them? I'm not going to lose them. Put them there next to my barn. Look what I picked up in my little local second-hand bookshop. It's brand new. It's absolutely brand new. Now, it's not very thick. Look, it's pretty diddy. But it looks like it's really, really basic, you know, right from the kind of, let's go back to the beginning, even of how to hold the crochet hook. So, I decided, I'd been thinking about this for ages anyway, and especially since I did those other couple of Sundays on the sofa, and some of you sent me some photographs on the Facebook page to show me what you'd been making whilst I was chatting away on the Sunday. Now, there are loads of you out there who are fantastic knitters. Brilliant. Actually, you're all fantastic at pretty much everything, excuse me a sec. Whether it's knitting, I'm so sorry, crochet, sewing, whatever it is. And I think I've mentioned previously, I got sidetracked, didn't I? I was going to show you what I was going to do today. I'll do that in a minute. Anyway, I've mentioned before that I come from a family who are very, very handy, very skilled knitters, crocheters, sewers, all those at-home indoor type crafts. We also, in my family, we have cabinet makers. My cousin Ben does dry stone walling. He makes barns from green oak. So I think I come from a family that's genetically predisposed to be creative and useful with our hands. And when I was a really little kid, I was taught to knit. I think it must have been my grandma. I'm sure it was my grandma who was showing me how to knit. I was taught to knit, taught to sew, all these. To me, these are basic life skills, actually. So, knitting, I think the problem for me as a kid was I was quite a rambunctious kid. I was always on the go and looking for the next thing to do. And I think the thing with knitting was it was far too sit down and be quiet. Because I was not a sit down, be quiet kind of kid. So I just never really got to grips with it. My mum, my sister, absolutely fantastic knitters. I mean, beautiful, beautiful things they make. Their skill just astonishes me. And I think that's part of the reason why, as an adult, I never really got back to trying, because when you have grown up with masters of the skills, you just think, I just don't even want to try because it will be so shoddy compared with what they do. But I do want to learn something on top of my sewing, because you see, can you see this? That's my gorgeous blanket my cousin made, and an ex-nurse friend of mine, she's still a nurse, she had knee surgery a couple of years ago, and it wasn't a knee, what did she have now? It was really, really complicated surgery, and she ended up being completely off her feet for 3 weeks, but then she still had more recovery to do after that. So while she was off, she taught herself to crochet, and now makes beautiful little blankets for the NICU unit at her hospital. And I've known so many of my friends have a go at crochet and actually get quite good at it within a short space of time. And that's what I'm after. I'm too long in the tooth to be starting something new that's going to take me 10 years to master. I ain't got time for any of that nonsense. So I thought, let's have a go at crochet, because firstly, I've always wanted to, but secondly, if I get good enough, maybe in a year's time I'll be good enough so that I can start crocheting items for my shop. Blankets probably, cushions, what have you. I think blankets, because they're so practical, aren't they? And doesn't every sofa need a little crochet blanket hanging over it? And in my shed I've got a couple of crochet blankets, because perfect in the summer as the sun goes down, sometimes it gets a little bit chilly, throw a little crochet blanket around my shoulders. So I thought, yes, high time for me to learn a new life skill, not just for myself, but hopefully eventually so that I can make things to sell. And that's just adding another little string to my bow of helping me to be self-reliant. Now, what I don't know is how easy is it going to be to learn from a book. I think with vast majority of things, it's always easy to learn if you've got someone on hand to show you. I think we probably all find that. In terms of as a learner, I'm a combination of visual, but also quite academic. I quite like books to learn from. Now that's okay if it's something like, when I was doing my pharmacology studies, yes, that's all about the books. But when it's something practical, I do think it's probably easier to do it with someone. So I'm going to give it a go with the book. I happen to already have I had 3 crochet hooks. One of them I've broken. I use it when I'm doing my bunting to stuff the point as I turn it inside out to poke the point down. But yeah, I've ended up with 3 crochet hooks. They've come free with a crafting magazine I used to buy. Where's my water gone? I'm sure loads of you in the UK are familiar with the magazine called Molly Makes. I don't know if they still do it. I don't go to the shops, I don't look for it anymore. But yeah, it was a fantastic crafting magazine. Lots of sewing, crochet, knitting, all sorts of ideas. Beautifully presented, absolutely gorgeous illustrations that made you want to have a go at the different projects. But they always came with a free gift on the cover, usually a kit to make something like a little felt brooch, or there were so many, like an iPod case. That's how long ago it was, iPods. Anyway, so I've had these crochet needles knocking around for ages. I found in my local charity shop, I found a ball of yarn for, I think it was 30p. Can't argue with that, can you? And then the book cost me, I think it was £2.50, which isn't cheap. New, it was £7. Now, like I say, it's a brand new copy. It's never been used, so it's a nice, clean, tight copy. But I'm going to talk about books, what I've been reading in a second. But I've noticed, certainly where I live, it's different if I go down to my great aunt's, but where I used to be able to buy a paperback for, say, 75p or something, I'm now paying £2.50 anywhere between £2.50 and £4, even for a novel. It's kind of crazy. I mean, there's part of me that doesn't mind because it's going to charity, and I was mentioning this in a recent video, when I stopped work and stopped getting that wage coming in, I had to stop all my charity direct debits because there was just no way I could fund them anymore. Fund them. And that was a real, I felt so much guilt. So in a way, buying books from them, I'm still in a small way giving to charity. Nowhere near like I used to, but it's better than nothing, isn't it? Right. Oh yes, what I'm doing today. It's nice to catch up with you all. Feels like it's been ages. I have got 6 of these bags. It's going to go everywhere. I'll show you like that for now. This is my lavender harvest. Oh my goodness, the smell! It's dreamy. Now the only thing is, hang on a sec. The only thing I'm thinking with this today, so the plan today is to get all my beautiful little heads off so I can start to make some lavender pillows, which are going to go into the shop. I've got, can you see it? You probably can't see, but I've got a big stash here of really gorgeous Liberty print fabrics. A lot of them, they're just not big enough for me to, they're real scraps. They're not big enough for me to make pennants for the bunting. So I'd had them set aside for ages, and I suddenly thought, oh, I can use them to make little patchworks, and from the little patchworks make my lavender pillows. So that's the job for the next 6, is it 5 or 6 bags? It's probably going to take me over an hour. And the thing that's concerning me is the smell is so gorgeous. It's going to put me to sleep. I'll start that in a second. But first of all, I just wanted to talk about my books a little bit. Getting comfy. So, do you remember about, was it 2-3 weeks ago? I've lost track of time. That's a really weird thing, isn't it? I don't know if it's something to do with age. But time seems to, it's just, I can't explain it. Hang on, get your thoughts together, Vivi. Time has become the most slippery beast. Weeks pass, and I think, how did I get, what happened to December? There I was in the garden at the beginning of December saying, right, by the middle of December, I'll have got all the leaves raked up, all my beds covered. The last couple of weeks of December can be all about doing the clear up, sorting out the cold frame, what have you. It's the end of December. I still haven't got my leaves raked up, still haven't covered my beds, haven't done anything. Weather's been rubbish. Anyway, yes, I was mentioning in the shed, do you remember that by the cover, The Good Life? And I was briefly mentioning how the book before this informs how I read this book. So I thought I'd give you an example of it by showing you this run of 4 books that I've read back to back. These are all finished, I'm on to other books now. But I was given this book when, I think it was about May, this was from Sarah, I think, yes, from Sarah. Braiding Sweet Grass. I'll give you the subtitle as well, because with all of them that gives a clue. Indigenous Wisdom, Scientific Knowledge and the Teaching of Plants. This book has been an absolute beauty. So I read it back in, oh, I've turned page corners down, that's so naughty. Don't dog ear your books. That's obviously because I didn't have a pencil at the time to mark something. I usually keep a pencil with me when I'm reading so that I can make notes if I want to. Anyway, I read it back in sort of May, June time, and then I picked it up again this autumn because it's an incredibly rich book. There's so much in there. It's one of those books that can definitely be read 2 or 3 times at least all through. Plus, there are parts of it which I'm sure I could just read over and over again, little sort of paragraphs here and there. It's beautiful. Written by the woman herself is a Native American, and it's all about her relationship with plants, both as a botanist, as a scientist, and as a native person who has been brought up with teachings about the plants, her whole sort of creation myth. It's really beautiful and interesting because it's got that kind of dual aspect of the sort of the science head and the spiritual head. So I completely loved it, reread it, fantastic. Then I went on to read, do you remember me mentioning this one, Indian Creek Chronicles? This was sent to me by Michelle. Now the thing that caught my attention, on the cover it said, honest, lyrical, and full of a kind of ineffable wonder. Anyone who has ever loved a place truly will surely love this book. So I thought, oh, right up my street. Okay, so first of all, thank you so much, Michelle. I'm really grateful and I'm really glad I did read it. But actually, I think having read it off the back of Braiding Sweet Grass, it jarred with me in so many places because it's about this young man, I think he's sort of 18, 19, 20, sort of first year at college, wanting to drop out, wanting to do something, sees this job advertised to go and mind a fishery, I think it's in Idaho, is it in Idaho? It's over the winter, he'll be cut off from everybody, it's real, you know, out in the middle of nowhere. The whole thing, there was just this real undercurrent of machismo about it. What I didn't like was in the winter part of it, he goes on a lion hunt. I found it despicable actually. Now I'm not naive and I don't wear rose-tinted spectacles. You know, I am a practical person. I don't romantically think of, oh, wouldn't it be amazing to live in the wilderness? I know it's hard. I know it's really bloody hard. And that people who live in these climates have to eat meat because it's simply not possible to grow enough vegetables or even to keep and store the vegetables. I don't know, maybe someone will correct me. So, and I accept that, and it you know, it comes up in Braiding Sweetgrass too. The difference is when Braiding Sweetgrass, Robin was talking about it, it's talking about that appreciation of the animal and appreciating the animal being there in order for us to take it, using every part of the animal, respecting the animal up to its point of death, respecting its treatment even after death. This was just about going out and shooting things for the fun of it, and I couldn't bear it. And in terms of loving a place, there were moments in the writing which I thought, I feel like he's finally connected with that place. But for the most part, I just didn't feel like he connected with the place. It didn't feel like he gave two hoots about it, to be honest. He sort of crashed in there, did it, wallop, out again. So, like I say, I'm grateful to have been given the book, grateful to have had the chance to read it, but it stuck in my throat. Didn't like it. So following on from that, I then started to read this one, The Good Life, I was mentioning. This is very typical of my sort of reading, in that if I'm reading something about outdoor living, then I'll go to my shelves, I'll see, oh, what haven't I read? And I'll follow that theme over a few books. I'll get bored of that and then I'll go on to read something else, totally different. But this one was about the British couple who went, and they end up going and living in Dawson City, right up in Yukon territory. And it couldn't have been a bigger contrast to this one. They were so... I felt their bond with the place in reading it. It was so beautiful. Terrifying at times, my goodness, you know, every day is a life and death situation. But I really, really felt that they deeply fell in love with that place. So much so they've stayed. They've got a kid now. They're all growing up happily there. They really struggled with killing anything for eating. So I think it was a caribou they had to kill. And they struggled with it so much, and this is what I mean about respect. They actually went and spoke to, I can't remember the name of the tribe, I'm so sorry, but the First Nations tribe from that area, they went and spoke to one of the elders and said, you know, how do we reconcile ourselves to killing? You know, one of the reasons we've come here, we want a simpler life, we want a life that's more in touch with our environment, we want that closeness with the environment. How can we go out there and kill something? So I like the fact that firstly they respected the place enough, and secondly they respected the knowledge and the wisdom of the First Nations people there. And by the end they're saying that they'll never ever get rid of the feeling of guilt of taking an animal's life. And by the way, I'm not meaning this as a big vegetarian broadcast, I'm not at all. Like I said, I do respect that folk in these areas have to eat meat to survive. I don't have an issue with that. I don't have an issue with someone respecting an animal and, well, I don't want to go off on one. Anyway, so I loved that, and it brought me back to that whole place of that connection with the land, of loving it, of respecting it, of just being there. It was beautiful. And then, and this was then a bit of a jump, I read Ray Mears, what's this one called? Goes Walkabout. So I think this is based on a series that was on the BBC. I didn't see it. I don't really see a huge amount of TV, full stop. But for anyone outside of the UK, Ray Mears is a bit of a bushcraft expert. He's a bit of a go into the wilderness and survive with nothing but a fire starting kit. He's a bit of a hero of mine. So this is him in Australia, and he goes to different areas in terms of in the far north, the sort of the rainforest, and then obviously into the centre of Australia in desert. There's quite a bit of history at the beginning about, and I say it in inverted commas, the discovery of Australia, and he puts it in inverted commas too. I really like that because it shows how much he respects that actually this may be the first time white man or woman, white man, has seen Australia, but we didn't discover it. We certainly didn't discover it. It's always been there, and it's been inhabited for a long, long time. So what's lovely in this is, as he's going to these different areas and looking at, you know, what's edible, where do we find water, etc., etc., he's always doing it with the Aboriginal people of that area. So he's drawing down their knowledge and their skills. And a lot of it, it's really beautifully written as well, because a lot of times places are so sacred for those people. They allow Ray to look, so for instance at some rock paintings, for example, but he doesn't write about it in the book. All he says is, yes, I went, I saw, but it was a massive deal for them to share something so secret and sacred with him that he's not going to tell us any more about it. But again, there's a theme running through all of this, as you can see. It's about respecting people, you know, about respecting those first peoples, those first tribes, whatever, respecting them. They are the ones who have been guardians of the environment, of the animals. They have been guardians for millennia. And it's only us stupid, white, arrogant, 19th plus century people who've gone in and started wrecking it all. So that was a really good little clump of reading. Thoroughly enjoyed that. As a change, I'm just finishing reading Michelle Obama's autobiography. Love it. I love her. My goodness, that woman has so much dignity and compassion and grace. Oh, she's my secret crush. Her husband's another secret crush. So I've nearly finished that. I was looking on my shelves again the other day thinking, what do I fancy next? Because I am quite eclectic in my tastes. So for instance, I've got a book up there all about Brunelleschi's Dome. So it's a book, and so it's the architecture, Renaissance, brilliant. So I like a bit of art, I like a bit of architecture. I've got a couple of novels on the shelf that I haven't read that have been gifted to me. I'm not a huge novel reader these days. I just think life's a bit too short for reading stories. I want to read real stuff because I want to learn. There's so much more. I've got so much more learning to do. Oh my goodness, I'm running out of time to learn everything. So I probably won't read a novel. I've got a lot of my books are kind of in a sort of a broad spectrum. They deal with sort of natural history, the natural sciences, rural affairs, rural living, wilderness living. It's like I said, it's quite a broad spectrum, and that's probably the sort of the area that I dip into most often. Oh yeah, I've selected my next two books, and now I'm thinking about another one. Never mind. Then of course there's my, and I don't know where it came from, my absolute passion for mountaineering, polar exploration, that sort of thing. So I've got a couple of books in that department that I haven't read yet. Oh, actually, let me go and grab this one. Hang on a tick. Oh, ow. I can't go quickly. Ah, yes, this one. Now, you see, this might tie in with the other things I was reading, because that's the other thing, isn't it, when we read, if you've been reading in quite a narrow bracket of subject, let's say with all of those that I just showed you, that's very much about connection of place, spirituality, in the environment, that sort of thing. Aboriginal peoples, their wisdom. This I've had on my shelf for ages, waiting for the right opportunity. So it's called The Last Kings of Thule. There's the spine. You'll have seen this over my shoulder in loads of my thoughts on videos. I'll just, how can I praise see it? So, this is about a guy, a Westerner, if you like, white male, it's always white men, isn't it? Who goes into Thule in Greenland. He goes as a sort of, as an explorer. He goes out of scientific curiosity, but what happens is he completely falls in love with the native people of that area, and he stays much longer than he originally planned to, and basically adopts their customs, their way of life, and yeah, completely submerges himself. So I think, when did he go? It was 1948, when, you know, back then, a lot of explorers, a lot of scientists were not respectful of the people who were already there. So for that time, it was quite unusual for someone to have a mindset like he did. I think that's going to be the next one. nice chunky one, and it's got pictures. I do like a book with pictures. I had been thinking, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get on with this lavender, am I? What's the time? Get on with it, Vivi. This was given to me for my birthday, so I haven't started it yet, read it yet. A honeybee heart has 5 openings. Subtitle is A Year of Keeping Bees. Fascinating. I'm fascinated by beekeeping. And as I was mentioning in last 1 or 2 videos, we've got bees on our site, and I'd really love to learn about looking after them. Who knows, one day maybe I'll have my own little space somewhere, my own bit of land, and I'll have some bees on it. I never know. You never know. So I am going to read that soon. And actually Paul from Richard and Paul, since 2017, even I'm contracted to say it, Paul was mentioning that he's really keen to learn about bees too. So I think what I'll do is I'll have a read of that and then pass it on to Paul. If I love it, having read it, I might ask to get it back. Quite often with books, I mean, I've got hardly any books in my home anymore, but with a lot of these, especially sort of these paperbacks, they'll go straight back to the charity shop so someone else can enjoy them. The other 2, the Indian Creek Chronicles, which I wasn't keen on, Braiding Sweet Grass, which I loved, I will keep, A, because they were gifts to me, and B, with Braiding Sweet Grass, I know that I'll read it again. So if I really, really love this, I'll lend it rather than give it. Sorry, Paul. And then look at this one. I just found this the other day. I'm so excited. Sorry, did I rattle the camera then? This is called Extraordinary Insects. Can you see on the cover? Will it pick up? Let's see. Can you see it's slightly iridescent? Oh, there it goes. Can you see it's iridescent? Isn't that fantastic? So the subtitle is Weird, Wonderful, Indispensable, The Ones Who Run Our World. Oh, I love it. So, yeah, I think I'm definitely going to read this next. You all know when I'm in the garden, I try to do everything in a way that protects that little ecosystem as much as possible. Not just protect my little ecosystem there, but to try and encourage a richer, more biodiverse ecosystem. One area where I'm really lacking in knowledge is with insects. So it's definitely something I want to do more reading on this year. What else can I be doing in the garden to like I say, to encourage a much richer biodiversity in my garden and in other areas within the site? You know, we've got that wildlife area. Are there other things I can be doing around the site or encouraging others to do around our site? But that all starts, I was getting out of breath, I'm talking so much, I'm so excited. All of that starts with knowledge, doesn't it? If there's not someone to explain things to us and to tell us, we have to go and find that knowledge for ourselves. So I definitely think this year is going to be a year about reading up on insects, and just seeing how will any new knowledge, will it change how I do things in the garden? The other thing I was thinking about when I found this is another charity shop buy, but it was £4. But I just thought, you know what, stuff it, I'm having it. After I'd got it home and I was having a bit more of a look at it, I was thinking, oh, I need a trip up to the Natural History Museum up in the centre of town. And then I thought, oh, I wonder if the Natural History Museum do any either courses or one-day workshops. So I'll definitely be having a little visit up to town and see if they do any sort of courses, or maybe they're, you know, some of the museums, they just have one-off sort of lectures, that sort of thing. So I'll definitely keep an eye out. I'm so excited. I'm going to have to stuff doing the lavender for the rest of the afternoon. I think I want to get stuck into my books. Which one first? The bees? Where are the bees? The bees or the insects? I think I'll read the insects first because that's going to give me an overview. Then I can go into the bees, and then I can go back to the cold parts of the planet. Oh my goodness. I've been going on for ages, haven't I? I haven't realised that's the problem, or the beauty, should I say, of books, is that, you know, every book is like a universe in miniature between its covers, isn't it? Every single book can open up so much to us. I don't know about you, but I get so lost in my books. There are times when I have to force myself to put a book down, to get on with something else, like, sleeping. I'm a nighttime reader. I like to tuck myself up in bed early and have a read. I try to turn the light off at midnight, but so often it'll be 2, 3 in the morning because I just can't put it down. But there we go. For now, I'm going to have to put you down because I really need to get on with some of this lavender. Oh my goodness. And maybe I might try and cast on my very first crochet stitch this afternoon. Actually, I'm not going to. With the crochet, I think I'm going to get to the end of this year. We've only got a couple more days left. I'm just going to let the rest of this year pan out. Over the first week of January, I'm not going to make any big plans about anything. I still feel like I need to come up for air after the whole of this year because it has been such it's been a terrifically busy year and I am really tired. Oh my goodness me. I think once we get into January, then I'm going to see about structuring my days, my time, so that I think maybe the crochet might become part of my Sunday. So as I was mentioning about having a quiet day where I do work, but it's quiet, so maybe I can get into the discipline of, you know, doing an hour of practice each Sunday. I don't know if that's going to be enough. We'll see. When I do, I shall probably, Lord help me, I think I will make a video of me having a go, because I'm sure there are some of you out there who would like to have a go too. So let's discover together how easy or difficult it is to do from a book. I know there are videos out there, I've had a look already. There seem to be quite a few videos on YouTube giving instruction. So I might look at that, but I'd rather do it from the book just because of quietness, wanting to be quiet. Anyway, that's all for next year. For now, let's focus on what's left of this year and having some nice quiet time on the sofa with me lavender. I'm going to be asleep in 2 minutes. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. I hope, as you were listening, because it's definitely not a watching one, is it? Or you might have had to look up to look at the book covers. I don't know. I love book covers. Book cover art. It's like album art. One of the things that was great about vinyl, I'm talking music now, having your gorgeous big 12-inch covers. Oh, lovely. Anyway, yes. Hopefully, what I was trying to say is that whilst I was whittering on about books, and hopefully you might be inspired to try one or two of them if you see them around. Definitely, of those I've mentioned this morning, that is my number one, top of the pile recommendation. Brilliant. But yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed listening whilst doing your own crafting, baking, tidying, woodworking, whatever it was you were up to whilst you were listening. I hope you didn't drop any stitches, bash your thumb, cut your finger, anything like that. Basically, I hope you've enjoyed hanging out with me. I've certainly enjoyed chatting to you about one of my absolute passions in life, and that is books. So, until next time, I'm going to go off and start having a read. I will see you all again. Oh yeah, really soon. It's nearly the end of the year, isn't it? And I need to have a big, long reflect on how this year has gone. That'll be in a couple of days though. So until then, enjoy this little bit of peace and quiet between Christmas and New Year. Shut the door, take the phone off the hook, grab yourself a nice cosy blanket, curl up on your sofa with a good book. See you soon. Until then, please look after yourselves.